Hey everyone, it's Dr. Bernard Fragomeni with the Humanbeing to Wellbeing Companies. Today we've got Julie Auman. Julie hails out of St. Mary's, Pennsylvania. If you don't know where that is, I do know it's in the upper northwest corner. It's not quite Ohio. It's not quite New York. It's in that general area of Pennsylvania. So for those of you that understand that Pennsylvania is actually a very large state and is not just Philadelphia, despite what you might think with the presidential election would happen. She's up in that kind of no man's land, nowhere land of a beautiful area of northwestern Pennsylvania. Julie, glad to have you today to be able to do our little coach vignette.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And we're going to be talking to Julie about her background. We're going to talk a little bit about what got her interested in being a coach, in working with people. She's been doing it for a while now. You'll be able to get a chance to get to know her a little bit more. We're really happy and feel very blessed to have her as one of our coaches. That's one of our biggest up and coming coaches working with folks. I've been spending a lot of time working with her and with clients that she's brought in. And we know that she's going to be one of the people helping lead a team of people for us as we continue to grow to over 100 coaches by the middle of next year. So we're super happy to have you. It's been a great couple months working with you as we get started with this thing we call Humanbeing to Wellbeing.
I'm excited to be part of it. It's been very, very educational for me so far too. So thank you.
Yeah, no, we're glad that you're here. So you got, like a lot of us seem to have our stories. I was on a call earlier today with Julie with one of her clients who didn't know I was a formerly fat guy. So we learned things about each other. And I don't think I really realized, I knew you'd had some issues, but you started to get interested in this at a younger age because you, like me, you were kind of a sickly child and had a lot of things going on. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, since I can remember as a kid, I was always sick, not to the point that I couldn't go to school or couldn't do anything, but I was just always sick with colds, sinus infections, bronchitis, all those types of things that just made me miserable all winter long. And so I was on a lot of antibiotics and different medications and all kinds of things. And as I got older, it seemed that things just continued to get worse. I guess I thought as I got older, I might start to feel better and not be as sick. And I even went through a time where I thought I was eating healthier and I thought I was doing what was best for my body. But as I then faced more health issues and I was kind of forced into doing some research on my own and learning more about holistic health options, I realized that what I was doing was only hurting my body. So that, I guess, was the big light bulb went off for me. And I was like, wow, there's a whole nother world. So once I started feeling better, I realized I want to help other people to learn about all these other options, and so that they don't have to go through life thinking that that's the only thing they can do and they're just stuck. I just always thought, well, I guess I'm just always going to be sick. But thank God I realized I don't have to live like that.
Yeah. What do you think with some of the things so at a younger age, you started studying this stuff, some of the stuff yourself. And then did you start making changes to diet or lifestyle?
Yeah,
early on did you start kind of making changes yourself, I guess?
Well, in my early 20s, I started making diet changes, but it was like the diet fads. It wasn't what I would recommend people to do now. It was more I thought, okay, if I only eat these certain foods and I eat low fat, all that kind of stuff that people thought was healthy. And I was very, very thin. And so I thought, well, I'm healthy, but it wasn't until my 30s then that I realized all of that wasn't really the way to go, because I just kept getting more and more sick. So that's when I really started to do more research into the holistic side of things, the naturopathic, herbs and just what kinds of foods can be triggering things. And so I went gluten-free and I went dairy-free. And that's when I started to see some big changes. And I realized, no doctors had told me that that was really an option that would help me. And so that was the biggest thing for me, was just doing research on my own, and then making changes on my own, and listening to my body. How was I feeling? Because that was the biggest indicator of whether or not it was helping me.
And did you have stuff with, I don't remember if you did or not, but did you have gut health issues going on? And you had allergy stuff going on and sinus stuff going on. But what other things did you have going on when you started like taking out gluten or dairy or some of the other things?
I had some definite gut health issues. It actually turned into IBS at one time. But I also suffered from migraines from the age of about 18, and they just kept getting worse and worse. And it turned into what they called silent migraines, which I had vertigos for like 2 months straight. And I actually got to a point where I couldn't be in any light whatsoever. So I kind of just sat in a dark room and just tried to sleep because I was always in so much pain. I really thought I was just going to live the rest of my life in a dark room by myself.
Did you get wavy vision as well? Like that stuff? I know my wife at times would get that, from time to time.
Yeah, I would get that. And I would get like shooting pain just through the whole side of my face. Very nauseous all the time, just like sick to my stomach, those types of things.
What did the doctors you would go to for that, traditional medicine doctors, what were they telling you? And what were they trying to treat you with? Or how did that look?
As far as the sinus issues, they were basically just throwing antibiotics at me and like giving me nasal sprays and things. When it came to the migraines, they were like, I went through all kinds of different pharmaceutical drugs, some that were meant to like lower blood pressure, thinking that that would help, when really I already had low blood pressure. So that kind of made it worse for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through like all kinds of different medications, and I am like super sensitive to side effects. So I would experience all those side effects, which just made me feel worse. So none of it ever helped me to feel better.
Yeah.
Which is what led me to like, okay, there's got to be another option.
And that's when you made the nutrition changes for the most part. And that's what you saw. It really helped you, right?
Right. Yeah. I just started with dairy and gluten, and right away I noticed my gut issues went away probably within a week. And I realized the migraines started to let up. And I actually even had more energy at one point once I was more consistent with it. So I noticed like a lot of the pain wasn't as bad. And over time, I learned how to manage some of those issues so that even if I were to get a migraine, I didn't have to take any medications. I learned how to just take care of it naturally with, like maybe magnesium or different things like that.
Yeah. So you've been coaching now with clients for over 4 years before you came on board with us. Let's go back though and talk a little bit about your education, because you got several degrees. So let's explain to people like you can talk about where you went to school, what your degrees were, kind of time between, and what drove you to kind of keep expanding. You're even going to be expanding here because you're going to become a certified biohacking advisor, but you're going to become a coach with us under my tutelage as well, for what that's worth to people, but they'll understand more maybe why it is worth. But let's hear about your education.
Yeah, so I started out at Edinburgh University and I went for business administration. I just figured that would be like, I went for human resources with the goal of being able to help employees and be like a sounding board for them. And just, I've always been in the mindset that I want to help people. And when I was in college, I also got into more exercising, which I didn't do a lot of in high school because I had knee injuries that kind of slowed me down. So then I started getting more into, physical fitness. So after I graduated from Edinburgh, I got a job and realized I really did not like that type of work. And I went back to school then for exercise science, because that's really where my interest was like maybe personal training, or at one point I thought about being a physical therapist. There were different avenues there. So as I was going to school for that second degree, I was also working in behavioral health part-time. And I graduated school and I did some personal training. I continued to learn, my family jokes that I'm like the person that's never going to stop going to college. Like I'm always going to be doing something. So, I continued to learn more and more in regards to health and fitness. But I continued to work in behavioral health, which I actually stayed in for about 15 years. But it opened my eyes as to how the two are connected, like with emotional behavioral health, and how your diet, exercise, and all of that plays a role in how you're feeling emotionally and mentally. So that sparked my interest. And I then moved into getting a master's degree in public health, because I wanted to be able to tie the two together and really be able to help people on both levels. Mm-hmm. And then a little while after I finished that master's degree was when I was really facing all those health issues, and I started studying the holistic side of things for my own personal benefit. And that's when I realized, like, wow, there's a whole nother world out there, and I want to be able to dive into that. So then I decided I'm going to become a holistic health coach. So I went for that program, and it all kind of started to tie together. And I realized how that can really benefit, like being able to get away from some of the pharmaceuticals and treating yourself with more natural options. So that's when I, decided to start coaching and guiding people along that avenue and opening their eyes to some other options.
Yeah. And you did that program was the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, right?
Right. Yes.
So, yeah, which is one of the more respected programs that's out there. I mean, besides the Certified Biohacking Advisor program, which is brand new, we'll get there. But that's certainly a respectable program that you went through. So it's interesting. There's a lot of folks that kind of go through this. They go through a journey themselves with maybe a personal experience or health journey, let's call it. It's something you can't really teach to people. Seeking answers, and then education seems to be a natural progression. I don't believe people should ever really stop learning from my perspective anyhow. I feel like I'm learning every day. You and I were talking with a client before we got on here about what's going on with COVID, and I was sharing a little bit of my opinion about policy and different procedures that are being put in place, and the vaccine, and it seems to be a journey where I think many more people today are probably questioning and learning and trying to understand what exactly is going on. So I commend you. I think it's great. And I know we're super happy to have you, and we look forward to working with you for a long time because your background is awesome, and you've been coaching people actively, and it's certainly easier for me to share information with you than somebody that's just a complete newbie. You've been doing it for a while, even though you look like you're like 20.
Oh, thanks.
but you've been doing it for a while, and you bring a lot of a good experience that you're gonna be able to help other people out on the team, as well as clients and patients that you work with. So we're excited to have you. We know that it's great. Now, so we've talked more about just the nutrition stuff, but you delve into, you do a little bit with energy healing with Reiki, and we were not going to necessarily, don't need to talk about that much, but there's stuff that you do kind of with the spiritual, with the wellness side as well. How important do you think that part comes into play with working with folks?
I think it's just as important as, diet, exercise, if not more important, because a huge part of getting to where you want to be is your mindset. You kind of have to believe that you're going to get there, and you have to be in a good space. So it's like, there's so much that goes on in the world around you, and there's so much stress that can come at people every day. And, a lot of I hate to say it, but there's a lot of negativity in the world. So
Yeah.
to be able to rise above that and just get yourself into a good space, regardless of what's happening, makes a huge difference, because then it gets you into a space where you can make good choices when it comes to your nutrition, you know, because you're more mindful of what you're doing to your body, especially. And when you're paying attention to what your body's telling you, you're going to make better choices, and you're going to be able to connect everything together. That's like the biggest thing that I've learned, is to, like, your body is always giving you signs and signals. And when you really get into a good mindful routine, and you're able to connect with yourself on that level, then it's like you can pick up on what your body's telling you so quickly, and right away you're like, oh yeah, I need to do this instead of this, or, you know, like, just make small little changes, like, oh, maybe I need some water, I'm getting a little bit of a headache and I haven't, you know. But in the past you might have said, oh, I'm going to pop some Tylenol because I have a headache, instead of like, oh, I just need some water, you know. Even simple things like that. But it's about, like, having the good mindset to get you there. And even spiritually, you know, having faith in something. I'm not even going to say it has to be anything specific, just something, I think, can make a huge difference in getting to physical health as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think the reason that we kind of were attracted to working with each other is, you know, our philosophy is to get people from somewhere on this scale of being a human being over to the scale where they're a well-being, not just have well-being, but living as a well-being. They need to focus in some way, shape, or form on mindset and environment. You know, how well are they managing their mindset? How well or how poorly are they managing their environment? Because when you really think about it, the decisions you make each day, all these little decisions that add up to the person that we become over a period of time, they come down to those two lenses that you look through. And when people are really off, they're really off in those two areas. You and I had a meeting earlier today with somebody, a wonderful person. But this person is going through some really tough times, right? And it's no fault of their own, but they're just, their scope of how they see life has gotten off significantly. And I feel confident that we'll pull them back to where the stuff that we start talking to them on nutrition and getting them to move again and getting them to do other things and pull on those big levers of stress resiliency and sleep hygiene and all these things will become impactful. But right now, they just kind of got to realize and get plugged into their own life and see and become aware of those decisions, as you put it so well, of how they're managing their mindset and their environment on a day-to-day basis. And once they can kind of see that a little bit better and they're mindful of it, then we can get them to be pulling with us on those big levers that are going to make significant impact to their overall health and well-being, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, for each person, there's a different place that you might need to start. But it is interesting how mindset always, like, that's one of the biggest things that I always focus on, is like, okay, what is your thought process as you go through your day? You know, are you getting caught up in just not really thinking about what you're doing, or are you more mindful of the decisions that you're making? Because it is, I mean, life gets crazy and it's easy to get caught up in everything until you're more aware of, like, oh, I just need to stop and breathe for a second, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that's definitely an area that we're always trying to get people plugged back in, and more on purpose than haphazard, right? You know, like we're always trying to say, like, well, let's back up and get you to pay attention. And I know to some people probably sit and listen to this, they're probably like, well, yeah, no kidding. You know, that's what we have to do. But what I will tell you is, if that person that's saying that looks himself in the mirror tonight and says, well, did I even really think through my day today with the decisions and choices I made? Or did I just kind of go through them like a person that's just, you know, ingrained in a bunch of habits? You know, my thing that I try to impart on people is to try to get them to understand that the reason that they're in the condition that they're in is because they've just been making a lot of these little decisions as they've gone through life without really paying very much attention, and they become very habituated into doing those things. And we don't use those words lightly. It might sound like addiction language, but it is really, because you're kind of addicted to being you. The downside is you, as the standard American diet person that's stressed out all the time, that's 45 pounds overweight, and you're being threatened with your fifth medication. This is where we need to step in, right? And try to interrupt some of those habits. I can just tell people listening, Julie's very good at this, as far as being able to kind of get people to take step back and take a look at it and say, what should I be maybe doing different with these little decisions that are very impactful over time? And then be very gentle with myself, like hold yourself accountable, but then be gentle with what you do. And it sounds like the journey you've been through and I've been through and some of us have been through. What do you think, like if somebody said to you, hey, Jewel, what's the most important way you can help me? Like, what would you say that would be?
I would say the biggest thing is to just be one of your biggest cheerleaders, because I can relate a lot to, everyone has their own journey and their own challenges, but I can say I've been through some struggles myself, so I can empathize with what you're going through, even though it's not the same. But I know that it's possible to get through it and to feel a heck of a lot better. And so as you go through your journey, I'm going to be right there cheering you on and just kind of bringing you back when you need it and getting the reminders and celebrating all of even the little wins. That's something that I've learned is like every single step in the right direction is a win that you should celebrate, because it takes a lot to even take those small steps, and to have someone even just to talk it through with, because sometimes even me now, like I know the tools that I need and I know things that I should be doing, but sometimes I even have to take a step back and say, okay, now wait a second. Did I really want to do that? Or should I, make a better decision next time, So sometimes you just have to talk through things with someone and just be a sounding board. And so that's my biggest thing, is to just be that person for my clients so they know that they have a safe space to go to with no judgment and nothing but, just being a cheerleader and helping you through whatever it is you're facing.
Yeah. And you started off too, talking about getting them to be on their own team as well, right? Getting them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is that I can believe it all I want, but until the client is there and ready to believe it with me, and so that's like, goes back to the mindset, like it's absolutely possible. And once you know that it's possible, you can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And where do you think you start more often with them on the mindset piece to get them, we always talk about the stages of change, right? And are they really ready? Are they contemplating? Are they in pre-contemplation? Are they planning? Are they ready to take action or not? Do you think you're almost always meeting somebody there to kind of get them really ready to do stuff? Or do you think you're a lot of times jumping in and maybe doing some little biohack thing with changing something with their diet? What do you think you see more often?
I would say more often it's getting them into the mindset that they're ready to do it. As you move towards that, I might say, how about you just drink a little more water, or, something really simple, or just throw some extra vegetables on your plate at dinner tonight, really, really simple things. But as they're doing that, I'm working on like, okay, what's holding you back in your mind from actually making those steps? Because a lot of times it's things that we have no clue are affecting us, even just like everyday stress that, a lot of people are stress eaters. So if we can figure out how to manage that stress better, that's going to change the way that you're eating.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's stress resiliency. It's the sleep thing. You hear me say it all the time. It's getting people to move a little bit, getting them grounded, maybe a little bit better. Then it's the nutrition and stuff, which, can be a lot. But what I see from looking at you working with people is you're really good at kind of simplifying it for folks and not overwhelming them, because we don't want to tell somebody the 185 things that we think they should change, right? I mean, that can be too much.
Oh, absolutely. You want to, I always look at it as like it's all baby steps, because I know for me, if somebody's telling me I have 10 things I have to change, I'm going to say, well, forget that. I'm not, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, and that's been like my word of the year is simplifying life. So that it kind of ties in with all of that too, because the simpler you can make something, the easier it's going to be to accomplish.
Yeah. And, during this COVID time, I mean, people that otherwise may have been resilient, this has just been enough to push some people over the edge. And I don't mean that in like a mental health way at all. Although maybe I do to a certain degree, but I mean, the people that otherwise may have not felt overwhelmed by just life as it's thrown at them, this year more people are. And so we do have people, you and I have dealt with some people that they know they need to do something, but they don't know where to start.
Yeah. Well, just even that can be overwhelming because but taking any kind of a step it's scary, because you're about to make some changes in your life, and it can seem like a whole lot. And as far as, like with the COVID and pushing people over the edge, I feel like a lot of people, it's almost like, you're in quarantine and you're kind of just faced to deal with yourself, which can be a scary thing too. Like a lot of people try to keep busy and they don't want to slow down and like just be in their own space, because that can be overwhelming too. And that's why I start with mindset as well, because you got to be comfortable with yourself and love yourself in order to want to make those changes. And even as scary and hard as it can be, it's very freeing also. So I think that's a huge thing to look at.
It's very well put. I mean, that's to me is definitely one of the things you want people to get kind of over themselves. You've heard me tell the story of my old Irish grandfather, but you need to be as understanding with yourself as you would be with your spouse or your significant other or your a family member that you love, and you need to give yourself that same space and level of forgiveness, because sometimes when we're working with people to get them ready to start moving forward, they can have a tendency to beat up on themselves, and you almost get the negative reaction, right? Like they're like, I suck. I can't believe I got myself into this position. This is awful. What was I thinking? And, we have to kind of pump the brakes on those people and to say, let's get you to realize that the little decisions you were making all the time, as you were stating, are what got you here, but let's let you to forgive and forget like you would with anybody else. And let's move forward with a level of understanding and empathy that you would pay to anyone else that you deal with. Why not you? Why not treat yourself the same way? That's one of the things that we try to teach people here with the way that I teach coaches, as well as that. We want people to hold themselves accountable, but we don't want them to hold themselves with, in a bucket of despair and angst and hate because they let themselves get into this, because you can't do anything about the decisions you made yesterday. You can only really affect today. And the whole idea of what you incorporate with mindfulness and getting people plugged in and making them aware is really where the battle's fought. It's not fought tomorrow and it's not fought yesterday. It's fought right now in the present. And you're really plugged in, and we talk with people every day about mindfulness, and what that really means. It doesn't mean sitting, with incense burning, with chimes going, and, having somebody try to do 3 hours of meditation to get in touch with their inner God or whatever, that they're trying to plug into. It really just means making people aware, right?
Absolutely.
Of those decisions. So, well, we're excited. Now, what do you think? Have you learned a different way since we've been working together? Do you feel like you've grown, and in what areas? Or something you can really point to? This isn't like, compliment Dr. Fragomeni, by the way, but, or Humanbeing to Wellbeing. But do you feel because if you're not growing and learning, then I feel like we're not doing a good job. So have you had specific things? You and I haven't talked about this, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
I absolutely have learned a lot. The schooling that I did was like a tiny little door that opened for me, but listening to you talk through things with clients, and even since I did that, I think some things have changed. The way that like the specific things that you might look at in diet has changed from what they've talked to back then. And even like the fasting, that wasn't a very popular thing when I was getting my certification. And I have done, I've read up on it all, I've done research, but to see you be implementing it and talking with clients about all of these changes, it's like opened up a whole nother world with me, especially because even though I've been coaching, I've been also focused a little more on some other schooling that I've done, I guess more education that I've been doing over the past 2 years. So this is like a whole, like it's a nice big refresher, and it's opened my mind again to all of this and to really be able to connect things even more. So this is like an amazing opportunity to just keep learning. And I totally agree. I don't think I'm ever going to stop learning because I love it. It keeps me going.
Yeah. And what's cool is we're seeing, so when Julie's talking about fasting, I just want to make sure. So although I fast from time to time and have in the past and have had people do it, we've been looking for a better way to do this. So recently we've been doing more with a fasting mimicking protocol that grew out of a lot of the work around anti-aging that Dr. Walter Longo at USC has done with his lab that studies longevity. It's a joint venture between USC and UCLA, but there's some fasting mimicking protocols that have also grown out of this, where we're getting the similar results that we would get with actually putting somebody either on a dry fast or a water only fast. We're actually sneaking food into their body while they're doing this. And Julie had a group of people just recently, amongst, and including herself, go through this. And the results that we would get usually from fasting, we're seeing with this protocol. And it's really cool. I always am talking about long-term results, incremental results, baby steps. But some of the people coming out of even just their first round with this, we're seeing some really neat things that they're saying to us, whether it's we're looking at, sugar, the dispersion of their readings that they've never seen to be so tightly together, mental clarity, so we're yes, we're trying to teach people this biohacking thing. But we're not trying to say there's short-term, magic, wand or magic pill and potions that we could do. But boy, the results you can get from pulling on levers like sleep and stress resiliency and fasting in particular, but without having to have the compliance of putting somebody through a water fast, that one recently has been even a little bit of an eye-opener for me. We heard some great things these last couple of days, right? And even,
yeah,
it's
amazing hearing and how everyone has said that it's so easy, like it's a lot easier than what they expected. And I can say from my experience, it definitely is easier than what I expected. And then hearing the results from those that in my group that did it, it's like, wow, this is amazing that you can offer this to someone and at least get them started on such a good path. It's a great thing to do.
Yeah, it's really a way to kickstart people's metabolic flexibility, and that's really what we're after with it. And everything that would fall under those categories that you would expect if you were to go out and talk to a doctor and talk about, what is your metabolism? How can I adjust it? Are there things you can do to rev it up? People are looking for all these things, and they're going about it either with supplements or with crazy, I think it's very dangerous for a bulk of the population, especially people that are metabolically sick, to go out and try to do a dry fast or a water fast. I mean, I know that there are people that do it. I don't condone it, really, to be honest. I think it's people are going to fail at it. They're not going to comply. When Dr. Longo first started doing the studies around longevity and senescence and turning on these different pathways, survival mechanisms that our bodies possess, they tried to do it with fasting, and they had a majority of the people, 90-95% of people would drop out in the first day and a half. So that's not the answer, and I also don't think if you're not in a clinical setting, it's very dangerous to do that with people. I love the idea of feeding them something, and we had been looking at different ways to kind of try to copy the idea of his macros and micros And honestly, we didn't get those results. They didn't work as well. They've now got these studies. They've got the food. It gets sent to your house. For people that we're talking to, you can work with Julie or one of the other coaches and work with me if it's necessary for me to jump in. So we kind of oversee what you're doing, and they provide the program that, by the way, has now been put through a bunch of studies that show that it's effective. So it's kind of a neat thing. If you've not heard of it, we'll put Julie's contact information. She's somebody now that's gone through it herself. Plus she works with us closely. It's affordable on a relative basis. You get coaching along with it. It's a great way to kickstart. Boy, if you felt like you've gotten the COVID-15 that we're hearing about, I haven't gotten the COVID-15. I think I've gotten the COVID like 6 or 7, but it's probably is the COVID-15 cloaked in the fact that I've not been at the gym lifting as much. So I believe I've lost some muscle mass and had that little bit of exchange going on that I can just tell when I look at myself in the mirror, not to scare people to death out there. When I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, I don't look, I'm not where I was prior to this whole COVID thing happening. So this is a way for people to actually, that have been thinking about what can I do? I don't want to change everything. And a lot of the studies that were done, by the way, with Dr. Longo at his institute, they only had people do this thing for 5 days a month, and they went right back to eating the standard American diet, you know, which is amazing, the results that they got doing that. When you combine what Julie can offer you and working on those other areas of your lifestyle and what we teach at Humanbeing, the Wellbeing, and we try to get you off of the standard American diet towards something that has some plants in it, maybe is plant-centric, maybe is plant-based meals every now and then, maybe even if you're really sick, we'd love to see you be, at least for a while, to try to get you, you know, de-prescribed or titrated down with your doctor, doing maybe even a little bit more plant-based. So I like that program. It's been interesting to see what we've learned with it. And you're certainly becoming kind of our resident coach, in-house expert with it, because you've now had groups of people and multiple people going through it. So you've gotten to see firsthand. So for those that are listening in, when we put Julie's contact information there, you can reach out to her and feel like you've got somebody that's experienced already with this. Obviously, you know, master's degree and certification from one of the top institutes that certifies coaches independently out there. Plus she's working closely with us. She's got a ton of experience and could really help you out. What would be one thing, if you wanted to share one more thing with folks about your coaching and working with you, what would be one more thing you might want to throw out there and just kind of put out there for folks that say, why would I want to work with Julie? And, you know, what do you think you'd want to offer up to those folks that might be wondering?
Well, I would say on top of just being a cheerleader for them, I continue with my own research, and like I'll jump in and try new things with clients. As you can tell, I jumped in and did the fast with everyone. I love doing that kind of stuff. I want to know what it feels like, so that I can, you know, really be able to connect with clients and know what they're going through. So I'm willing to try different things as well and continue. And if I don't know something, I'm going to find a way to get the information, you know, because I think it's important to be able to continue to gather all the information you can and have. But the thing about it is I'm never going to know everything, but that it's awesome to have connections that you can reach out to and say, okay, well, I have this going on and that going on, and I really need some help, you know, in this area. So I try to maintain as many connections as I can, so that if I can't help, I know where to go to be able to help, you know. And if I can't, you know, give you all the answers, I'm going to find a way to get them for you. And Dr. Fragomeni is a huge connection, obviously, because you have taught me so much already. So yeah, I'm excited to just dive in and do whatever it takes. Be right there with you.
Yeah, I think that says a lot. And I will tell you that it's a conversation I have with people that work with us. I don't want anyone making some answer up to somebody. I want people that have curious minds, that are willing to try different things. You certainly are, which is what we love about you. I think anybody that tries to pretend in this field I don't care if they're a coach, if they've got a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, certifications from everywhere. I don't care if they've got doctorate level education. I get very suspicious of even other practitioners that pretend that they know everything in this, because stuff is changing every day. There are a pile of studies I could be reading and spending hours and hours every day that come across my desk. And you need to be curious forever. You need to be humble to know that you can't know everything. And you need to never hold yourself out there to anyone that asks a question like you have every single answer. There's just the dearth of information that's out there, and the velocity with which it happens on a daily basis is unbelievable, but it's what keeps me plugged in. I love the fact that I'm like, hey, no one can know all this stuff. So we have to constantly be learning and reading and asking other folks, hey, I saw this study. What do you think about this? And we have to be willing to be humbled. And that's really, I think that's part of the job as somebody that's a good coach, is that they're willing to say to people, yeah, I don't know everything. There's no way for me to know everything, but you know what? When you stump me, or when I don't know what's going on with your condition or something that you're going through, I've got resources that I can go to and ask the questions, and we'll get the answer. And we don't want people that are going to pretend that they know everything. That's a dangerous thing. In fact, I think it's very dangerous in this industry that you have to be willing to say, not really quite sure that. I haven't heard that question in 6 months or a month, or, you know what, I think I know, but let me double check with Dr. Fragomeni or with some other resource that we have. So we like the fact that you say what you say, because it's the person that you are. And that's partly why we got you here. And we're happy to have you as part of our team. And part of our leadership probably as we go forward. So we're excited about having you here. So, well, anyway,
I'm super excited.
Yeah. So, well, with that, we'll kind of wrap it up. For those of you that want to reach out to Julie, we'll put her contact information in this post so you can get a hold of her. It's always so hard to me because your picture's down here and my camera's up here, and I'm always looking down, and my wife yells at me, and people are like, what is he looking at? But, you have to understand I'm looking at a very big screen, and my camera's up here. So it feels weird when I start looking up at the camera. But so we'll put Julie's contact information there for you to reach out to her. If you've been looking for somebody to work with that's a coach, it doesn't matter if you're not in the St. Mary's, Pennsylvania area. She can work with people all over the place. And if you've picked up anything, it's that she is somebody that cares deeply about people, wants to help them, and has a high degree of empathy. And to us, that's just a home run. If you're looking for somebody to work with you, you want somebody that's knowledgeable, but that also has a high degree of empathy. So reach out to her, and perhaps we'll be working together through this video that's reached other people where they get a chance to see a little bit about Humanbeing to Wellbeing and about Julie. With that, we wish everyone well. Jewel, we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to connect with more people.
Yeah. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
This has been the Humanbeing to Wellbeing show with Dr. Bernard J. Fragomeni. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms so you can stay in touch and in tune with everything that we're bringing you around health style, transformation, natural medicine, functional nutrition, nutritional psychology, and the whole gamut that's going to make you live forever as a well-being. Go out and make this day the best day you've ever had, because it's the one that we've got.